I have been obsessed with numbers since I was a kid. Anyone who knows me will tell you that I'm likely to remember a person's age, birthday, height, weight, and anything that can be quantified more so than their actual name or face. Like, no joke, you tell me your birthday once and I'm never forgetting it. Yeah, I've got issues. But don't get me wrong, as weird as it is, there's a huge upside to it too, especially with women. Plenty of whom I've made feel super special over the years by basically remembering every relevant date as it pertains to them, including their birthdays and the day I met them. Man, they felt like the most important person in the world. Until they realized I also remember the birthday of the boss man across the road who sells me crisps. And to be honest, my obsession with numbers very much has crossed over to my love of football. And when I first came across sites such as Who Scored, SofaScore, Transfermarkt, Messi vs Ronaldo and everything else, bro, I was on cloud 10. I no longer had to look through games, count passes and tally averages on my own. Believe it or not, I've actually done that. Again, yes, I have issues. But now, I also had straight and simple access to the super engrossing but safe to say slightly silly and insignificant stats I've obsessed over since the start. And it was great. But then it started to go too far. Cause you see, I'd scoped these sites cause of my aforementioned weird curiosity / obsession. These young and impressionable, idiots, on the other hand, actually use stats such as key passes, take-ons, tackles, interceptions, and the death of all fun that is XG as the ultimate way to determine the level of footballers. And this is where and why, honestly, all this slowly starts becoming detrimental to the game. And if you want a more detailed explanation to that, well, here is why rating apps and stat-based websites have ruined modern football. Let's roll on. Right, so the first point I'll start with is, well, it's the least important to me. If you ask individuals of a certain age, this is basically the worst of the worst. And that is called the thief of joy. Like, how many times have you heard an older person say shit like how the obsession with stats and all that has ruined simply the joy of watching someone play? And to an extent, it's true. When you witness something like your favorite player doing a bit of amazing skill or your local team nicking in a 90-minute winner, but then log on to flipping Twitter and see that they, according to the numbers, did nothing but ride the coattails of luck for that single moment while being mere parasites for the remaining 80+ minutes. Yeah, that would kinda dampen the feeling. And yeah, fuck you for that. But again, this is only applicable to an extent. Because you see, I also do believe that those who say that the over-analysis on stats and numbers killing the game are somewhat confusing the terms favorite and best. Your favorite player is the one who you enjoy watching the most in action and could care less about how much distance he covers or how many goal contributions on average he has per game or whatever the or as the kids tend to say, your favorite player is the one who passes your eye test. The best player, on the other hand, for me should be judged off, yes, partly the eye test, but also various other factors, which does include a variety of stats. Hence, you can't fully blame the emergence of these sites thieving the joy of the game. It's also partly just you getting your definitions mixed up. Because again, basing your favorite player purely on the eye test is fair, but basing your judgment on who the best player is purely on the eye test is honestly a little ignorant. Because again, much like the eye test, the factors that determine how good a player isn't just limited to stats, but they certainly do too factor. Watch any of the criteria from our videos if you wish to be more educated on that matter, but that's up to you. Now, the next bit I won't leave up to you because, well, it seems like no one f***ing notices this shit, and that is the disregarding of team goals. And no, I don't mean that the creators of SofaScore have something against goals that had 23 passes strung together. But you see, these websites lead the younger and dumber idiots among you to use the individual stats of a player such as dribbles per game without taking into consideration the system he's actually a part of, and in turn the goals of his team. It is a team game after all. And to be fair, this is quite fitting for this channel because the Messi and Ronaldo argument is a perfect example here. Like, bro, I've seen so many times while these two were playing for Barca and Real respectively, how Leo averages so many more passes and dribbles per game and therefore is the better player. Bro, how do you not clock that obviously Messi will have more passes and dribbles per game? Barcelona played, and well, still play, a tiki-taka system where they amass a truckload of passes together in basically every sequence. They enjoy significantly more possession per game on average and use said possession in a manner that involves a lot of dribbling out of tight spaces as well as passes. On the other hand, Real Madrid, while not exactly having a solid philosophy as ingrained in their DNA as Barca did, mostly altered and mixed it between being a counter-attacking side, usually against the bigger teams, and a side that used the wide areas to either deliver crosses in volume or have their wingers cut in and take shots in volume. That would be against the smaller sides. So yes, of course. Of course a Barca player would complete more dribbles and passes per game on average in the same position. And of course a Real Madrid player would average more sprints and shots per game in the same position. How is this not common sense? And how? How does that equal to said Barca player being better than the Madrid player? Like, you do realize by that logic, the Madrid player would have to ignore his manager's instructions of staying up high and wide and wait for the break, and instead tuck in, force himself into tight spaces, play short passes as a dribble out by himself while his teammates are probably just looking at him like, and this is what I mean. Like, don't get me wrong, I've said it many times when it comes to these guys. Messi is a significantly better dribbler and clearly a better passer than Ronaldo, but he isn't as clear as these stats across their careers suggest he is. Cause facts are, Messi, even outside Barca, played in teams that dominate possession, play more passes and operate in tighter spaces and etc. much more than Ronaldo did in Real, United, Portugal or wherever he was. That doesn't mean Ronnie's a worse player, it just means he's a different player on a different team with different goals, and that shouldn't be disregarded. Which brings me to this: the ultimate way in which the introduction of rating apps and overload of statistics have ruined modern football, and that is the encouragement of what I call footballer versus. Ah man, this is something that's been going on for a long time, even before rating apps. Hell, probably even before the fucking internet. But boy, would I be lying if I said all this didn't make it so much worse. And if you're unfamiliar with all this, here's what I mean. So you know when you're comparing two players and at times get someone bust the line, well, he's a great insert key attribute but not a great footballer. Haaland is a great goal scorer but he's not a great footballer. De Gea was a great keeper but not a great footballer. Neville was the better defender but Kyle Walker is the better footballer. I'm sorry, but what the fuck did you pop in your mouth for so much air to disperse? What do you think a footballer is? Someone who can just pass and dribble? No. The game of football consists of... I can't believe I'm having to explain this. The game of football consists of 11 interdependent players spread across 11 different areas of the pitch and are tasked to do pretty much 11 different jobs. And just because some jobs require less time and skill on the ball doesn't make a player assigned to such a position any less of a footballer than his teammates. And look, if this was merely an issue of semantics in cyberspats between two typically tactless and trying teenage tits with their testicles still touted together high up their trousers that are titanic and tough on the Twitter timeline, but when it's time to stand eye to eye and toe to toe to talk the talk turn terribly tranquil in trepidation, I probably would have just ignored it. But the fact that even people from the higher ups use this stupid argument to try and justify giving clearly the wrong person a prestigious individual accolade, fam, that's just not fair. These guys are both footballers, but again, they are obliged to play different roles for their teams. And therefore, if you're gonna use this argument to put down Haaland when deciding who wins the Ballon d'Or in spite of the insane season he had with City, you do realize by your logic, no defender, centre forward or goalkeeper would ever be in contention to receive such individual accolades. You starting to realize how stupid this is now, or are you just stupid yourself? Cause my friends, that is not how you judge who's better between two players in completely different positions. This is how you judge. For example, if the two candidates were Messi and, I don't know, Aymeric Laporte, you look at who did their job better. Did Laporte defend from the front, play out from the back, make tackles at the right time, track his runners, and nail his positioning better than Messi, make the right passes, dribbled at the right time, and scored/assisted? And then factor in whose team was more successful as a result of the player's contribution. Wise words. And while that clip specifically focused on judging a Ballon d'Or winner over a season, this can be applied to cases where you may want to make historical comparisons too. For example, let's say you're trying to make a decision on who should rank higher in the list of the greatest footballers of all time between Paolo Maldini and Zinedine Zidane. Two players with completely different roles on the pitch, in completely different ends of the pitch, but both undoubtedly among the GOATs. So, if you wish to judge who the better player was, you see if Zizou dribble past players, make final passes, score important goals, produce moments of magic, and make his team's attacks tick better than Maldini, time his tackles, keep wingers at bay, win physical duels, organize his defense, and etc. And from there, you see whose contributions were more vital to their teams and how successful their teams were as a result. And then, since this particular example is judged over a career and not a solitary season like the Ballon d'Or, you then look at who, out of Maldini and Zidane, was better at transferring those contributions to different teams, different systems, under different managers, and perhaps even across different eras. And basically, who was better at utilizing his individual attributes regardless of the circumstances that may have surrounded him. So in the case of Maldini and Zizou, the category concerned with who did their job better consistently and thus helped their teams be successful will have to go to the son of Cesare. He won a lot more during his career and was predominantly in defensively solid teams where more often than not he was the leader and organizer of the defense. On the other hand, as far as the category of who was able to transfer their performances to different teams in different setups and under different managers while still being successful, you'd go for Zizou. Not only did he win everywhere he went, but the level of his teammates or even opposition seemed to have little to no effect on his actual performances. But to claim that Maldini was any less of a footballer than Zidane because his job required him to have a different and far less fancied skill set, come on man, that's just stupid. And much like stats and all that being the thief of joy, I do think footballer versus does confuse, albeit to a much lesser extent, the terms favourite and best. Cause yes, of course you can say you prefer playmakers and wingers over strikers and defenders. Not only is that perfectly reasonable, but extremely understandable. But using the roles assigned to them as a way of downgrading their capabilities as footballers, no, that's wrong. It's always been wrong, it will always be wrong. And with the advent of these sites introducing other bullshit like XG and key passes and other jazz, the wrongness just increased tenfold. Man, people are dumb. And that is that. Agree or disagree beats indifference. Once again, don't forget to like, comment and share. And of course, subscribe. Till next time, you keep rolling.